Welcome and or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell and today I'm going to be bringing you a mid-month wrap-up. So during my last TBR I said, who knows how this month will go. It could be a month where I just read 2 books. It could be a month where I read a bajillion books, and I guess it's like a really successful reading month. I am reading so much. I don't know what that says about my mental health, but I've been reading a whole ton. It's been an awesome reading month so far, at least, so that's great. And because I have so many books to talk about, I didn't really want to do like a month wrap up, and I'm feeling in the wrap up mood. So I figured let's do a mid-month wrap up. This should be going up on the 15th, so I'm filming this on the 14th, so this is not exact mid-month for my reading, but that's okay. Not only has this been a really good month so far in terms of the amount I've read, but I've also read how many 5 stars? Let me see. 3 5-star books, 4 4-star books, and then 2 3 stars? No. Yeah, 2 3-star books. So a pretty good month also in terms of rating so far. So I'm just going to go from chronologically, so starting with the first book that I read this month in May. So the first book that I read this month was Benjar, which is part of the 7 Brides for 7 Alien Brothers series by Honey Phillips. I've really enjoyed Honey Phillips a lot so far. I've read a few of her Alien books and really like them. Her Alien romance is just fun, lighthearted, cute, nothing serious. It's like medium spice. Yeah, it's just a fun time. Now this series is really like a short, like I would say novella series, like each book is novella length. And it's kind of a retake on the 7 Brides for 7 Brothers series. So it is set on this alien planet where there's been like a human settlement, but they kind of like are wanting, whoever did the settling wanted to harken back to like homesteader days, like old values. And so they've set the settlement up, but then these 7 aliens who were all part of like this military unit together landed there too, and they bought the old ranch that's like on the other side of the mountain from this town. So this is almost like a Western, but if a Western took place like on an alien planet, which kind of makes it fun. Like I think it's really cute. Now the first book I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars, but unfortunately Benjar was a disappointment for me. I gave it 3 stars. It was still a fun time, but it just wasn't as good as the first book. I'm still planning on continuing on with the series because I still think other characters will have cute romances that I will enjoy, but I personally wasn't a fan of Benjar. I just didn't find him to be a redeeming or like an enjoyable hero to read about. I just thought he was really immature and kind of stupid, and I wasn't a fan of Benjar. I found the heroine to be way too quick to forgiveness. So basically Benjar led this group to kidnap a bunch of women from the town, thinking that it went along with this story that the first heroine from the first book told all of the brothers. He thought basically the moral of the story was you can just go kidnap your brides. Obviously that wasn't the moral of the story, but he misunderstood and he thought it was like human custom. So he went and he decided to bring some of his brothers, and they went and kidnapped a bunch of human women from the town. Okay, fine. The way he went about it, and I guess like his reasoning and his realization that like, yeah, he knew it was the wrong thing to do, actually kind of peeved me off a little bit. I don't know. I just wasn't a huge fan of Benjar, to be honest. I also thought the writing was actually better in the first book. Yeah, I mean, I'm giving it a 3 star. It's a low 3 star, and I will continue on in the series though. It's just, I don't know, hopefully going to be like the lowest rated book in the series. Next, I had my first 5-star read of the month, and that is Desire in His Blood by Zoe Draven. Zoe Draven wrote the Jakari series that I really like. Captive of the Horde King is the first, so like the Horde Kings of Jakar. So Captive of the Horde King, and the first 3 books I've read, I've enjoyed in that series. I haven't continued on, but I'd like to. I do still think the first book is my favorite in that series, but I really want to try the series because a lot of people are obsessed with it, and I see why. This book was phenomenal. So we have our heroine who is kind of trying to take over the finances for her family. Her dad keeps gambling. I don't know if he's gambling or just addicted to borrowing money, but he owes a lot of money to a bunch of people. And these people are not nice people. Basically, they realize that the only way for them to get out of debt is to sell her off to this bidder. This guy is bidding so much money for her, but he's from this planet that they're terrified of because this planet is home to blood-sucking berserkers. So yeah, this is like vampire, alien, berserker romance. So her dad kind of was like, well, you're stuck. You're going to have to do that because I got us into this and you're going to get us out, basically. So she goes off. She marries this guy. But she doesn't realize that he has it out for her family. So he hates them. And he is going to make her pay for a debt that is owed. She doesn't know what her family's done. She just knows that he hates her and he is dead set on making her life miserable. And it's their romance. Like, this is true enemies to lovers. Like, this is not just rivals to lovers or hates love. No, it is enemies to lovers. Like, she is his sworn enemy. That's so good. This is such a good book. It gets really hot, but not until you really feel for these characters too. Zoe Draven does an amazing job just building the tension, building the romance, building the feels that you feel for these characters, the emotions, their tension. There is pining, but at the same time still this like hate that he has. And it's so good. It is so good. Highly recommend. If you like alien romance or fantasy romance, highly recommend. Check it out. Zoe Draven writes alien romance for fantasy romance readers. It's so good. Next, I read like another fantasy-esque romance, monster-esque romance, and that was Whispers of the Deep by Emma Hamm. I have enjoyed Emma Hamm before. I do want to try more from her now especially, but this was the first in her Merman series. So the second book in this series, I think, is about to come out, or it might be coming out the day this comes out. I can't remember, but it's coming out in mid-May. I know that. So keep an eye out on that. But the third one, I think, is coming out in the fall, maybe November timeframe. So this is the first one in the series, and this is like a mermaid series. So on this planet, I don't know if it's actually supposed to be Earth. It does reference that basically the climate has turned against people. Earth is not habitable anymore. So people live underwater, and they live in these like cities, like these like domes, these dome cities underwater. And so our heroine is a human who lives underwater. There are these mer people that hate them because they've destroyed a lot of parts of the ecosystems in the ocean in order to build these dome cities. So once again, we have a rivals to lovers, a monster romance type fantasy romance set up. This was really fun. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. The only reason I couldn't give it 5 stars was the descriptions in terms of the intimate moments, the descriptions kind of eked me out, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I'm still not quite there when it comes to fishy monster romance. Like, there's monster romances I love. You guys know I love monster romance. But I'm more of like an orc and gargoyle kind of girl. Fish people, mermaids, krakens, that kind of thing. I'm still working my way in on that, guys. So this one, I was meh on the actual intimate moments, but the story was super fun. The writing was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. I will probably continue on in the series too. I hope, but you guys know how I am with series. Okay, so the next book that I read was a historical romance. This was my first historical romance in a while, and it kind of got me back in the historical romance mood even more. We do have a historical romance readathon called the Ever After Readathon, hosted by Books Forever After, and that's going to be starting on the 17th, so just 2 days after this video posts, and I'm really excited for that. So anyway, I read my first ever Lorraine Heath, and that is When the Duke Was Wicked. And this is the first book in the, what is it? The Scandalous Gentlemen of St. James or something, St. James and Scandalous. I don't know. But this was my first Lorraine Heath ever, and I really enjoyed it. This is a childhood friends to lovers historical romance, but at the same time, it's got this trope. So they're conspiring together for him to help her choose her match. So it's not fake dating, but it's got that conspiratory kind of, they're co-conspirators together. trying to find a match or trying to deal with the matchmaking situation. In general, I think it's very similar to fake dating. Our heroine has known our hero since she was a child. He is 9 years older than her though, but she's always kind of leaned on him, except for she also has always loved him. So he was her first love. She's always been in love with him. But he ended up marrying pretty young, and then his wife and his child passed away from disease, and he is basically a wreck over it. He vows never to love again, and he is just kind of like drinking and whoring his way through life. And he doesn't want to be a part of balls or society or anything like that. She goes to him, and she is now basically in her season, and she is the daughter of a duke, I believe, and they have a lot of money. She has a huge dowry, but she doesn't trust that the men who are interested in her are interested in her for her heart as opposed to her money. So she goes to him and says, hey, I need your help to let me know who is here for me and who loves me as opposed to who wants to marry me for my money. And he ends up agreeing to help her out, and it is their romance. There's so much mutual pining, so much tension, so much angst, but it's also really funny and it's also very steamy. So it's honestly like the perfect mix of everything I love and a really good historical romance, which makes me want to read a ton more of Lorraine Heath because it's like she gets me. She knows what I want from a historical, and I loved this so much. The writing was just impeccable. Like I said, it was funny, it was sweet, there was drama and pining, but it was also super steamy and spicy, and it was just good. It was so, so good. I obviously gave this 5 stars. Adored. Absolutely adored. Okay, so the next book I read was my second 3-star of the month, and that was Veridos by L.A. Holloway. So this is like a little monster novella, like monster alien novella. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but a lot of these books, like the alien romance books, I was reading because I'm partaking in the Galactathon hosted by the Roomies Digest. I've read a lot of alien romance this month, but this one is like an alien / monster romance, and our heroine is in STEM. She is researching and studying the biology of this planet, and one day Veridos just shows up and is like, hey, I've been watching you, what up? Veridos is, well, she's named him that, but it's also the name of the planet, but he's just this giant tree creature. So if you think like the Ents from Lord of the Rings, like that big, like giant, like I hold you in the palm of my hand, giant tree creature, like tree god kind of thing. Yeah, and this is their romance. So obviously now I know how that worked, because I was wondering, I was like, how does this size difference work? And you know what? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. But this was fine. This was fun. It was short. It was cute. It did not blow my mind. This is another low 3 stars. But I would recommend it depending on the situation. Like, this is not gonna be like the best, most memorable book, but if you're looking for a fun, short, goofy time, I think this is it was fun. It was short. It was goofy. I also think it did fit the spring vibes, like plants and, let's just say when he reaches a certain climax, the pollen flies. So it's very springy. Yeah, I really don't have much in-depth thoughts on this book. It was a book about an Ent, basically, and a woman. Next I read Taken to Veraxia. Now this I actually buddy read with April from Happily Ever April, and that was so much fun. I love buddy reads, and it's been a little bit since I buddy read anything with April, and we had so much fun, and we both ended up loving this book. I gave it 5 stars. I'm obsessed. I just think that Elizabeth Stevens did an amazing job with this book, and I cannot wait to read more from this series. So basically, this is about this group of people. They're on this like moon, and they are in this pact with this other race that they can basically hunt them once every, I don't know what the cycle is, but they get to hunt them on occasion. And so there's a lot of SA in this. Well, not that you see on screen, though there is one like on-screen essay. It's also referenced a lot, so just know that. Also, just check out all the trigger warnings. This is a really dark alien romance, so there's a lot of trauma being dealt with at the same time in this. So head of this empire, he shows up because he wants to know what's going on this moon, and he ends up smelling his mate. And so this is their love story. She is terrified of him. She thinks she has to basically pay for everything she wants via like sexual favors, and there's like a lot of miscommunication, and he's really insulted by basically what she expects from him, because he's like, why does she think I'm so dishonorable, basically? But at the same time, she's dealing with all this trauma, right? So there's a little bit of miscommunication with that. Not to mention there's the language barrier kind of situation, which is dealt with, but then there's the cultural differences. It really dives deep into their cultural differences. There's a lot of mutual pining, a lot of tension, a lot of coming to terms with trauma, and the heroine really happened to grow, and she has to basically help lead these people, and he expects her to. Like, he's like, no, you're equal to me. You need to lead these people. I'm going to be giving you jobs to do, and you need to do this. So she has to really be strong, and she has to go through a lot of growth. There's so much character development. There's so much growth that these characters go through. And did I mention there is so much spice? But especially, it's not just spice. Like, some books are spicy, but it's like you don't feel it. Like, no, this is so well written. The spice is steamy. Like, it is hot. This is a hot book. It is hot, 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 on fire. The steam is so good. Like, this was just so good. I loved it. I loved this book so much. Probably my favorite book I've read this month, but that's hard to say because I have read some amazing books. Like, some of the best romance I've read all year has been this month, and it just has me wanting to read more. I'm in a reading mood. I just want to read more because I just keep on picking up such bangers. Anyway, I love this. 5 stars. Please read this, but do know the trigger warnings going in. Don't read it if you think you might be triggered. Okay, next I read The Lion's Bride by Connie Mason. Check out this step back. This guy I've seen on a few step backs and covers, and I feel like I've seen him not as much as Fabio, but I think he's a pretty popular historical romance model. Let me know if you know who he is. I don't know who he is, but I'm a fan. But this is a medieval historical romance by Connie Mason. I've never read Connie Mason before, but I really enjoyed this. I don't think this book will be for everyone because the miscommunication, which I usually hate this trope, but the miscommunication in this book is off the wall. It's just all miscommunication. So basically we have this knight, and he's called the Lion. His name is Leon. And this is during the time of William the Conqueror, and he's his favorite knight, and he gets promised this land and is married off to our heroine who already lived there, and she doesn't want anything to do with these Norman invaders. She's already been promised to this other Saxon lord, and so basically when he first comes there and meets her, she's too young to be with, so he sends her to a convent where she's severely mistreated by the nuns, but he doesn't know that. And then he picks her up when she's 19 because William says, hey, you need to go to your castle now. We're good with battles for a while. I need you to hold the land for me and go get your bride and consummate the marriage, etc. So yeah, this is their romance. They have basically extreme heat between them, but she hates him. She hates him so much. And he just wants her to submit, basically, and do as she's told. But she is very stubborn, and he is very stubborn. They're basically both the most stubborn people I've ever read about in a book. She also is very brash. She makes decisions with zero thought behind them. She is the most annoying heroine I've ever read. Like, I thought Fortuna Sworn was bad, but this girl was just... she could not get her act together. I will say, keep in mind, this book was written in early or mid 1990s. So some of the scenes, like the intimate scenes between the two of them, were questionable. I would say like they were okay. They weren't SA, because you get her point of view and she wants everything to be happening, but out loud she's not saying that. So the scenes are definitely questionable, but that's very common when you're reading like books, historical romances that were written 20 plus years ago. So just keep that in mind if you're reading this. This is an older historical romance. You're going to have those elements more often than not. And that was in this too. But like I said, like she wanted everything that was happening. So like it didn't bother me too much to be reading, if that makes sense. I give this 4 stars. I don't know why, because I was so annoyed the whole time at both of these characters. But at the same time, I was having fun the whole time. Like this storyline was batshit. Like this was crazy. This plot was bonkers. The back and forth and the miscommunication, it just wouldn't end. But yeah, it was a good time though. I can't help it. I enjoyed myself. Okay, the last book that I actually have finished so far this month was Barbarians Taming by Ruby Dixon. This is the 8th book in the Ice Planet Barbarians story. This is Maddie's story, and she is a loudmouth. She's not happy with her situation. She basically showed up here and was abducted with her sister. If you don't know anything about Ice Planet Barbarians, these women were abducted from North America and they went through some traumatic experiences with these aliens and then were kind of dropped off on this ice planet. And the aliens that abducted them were like awful, bad aliens, but the aliens that they encountered on the ice planet were not. These are the Sakui, I think it's what they're called. But yeah, they're these big, giant blue aliens, and this has the fated mate trope. Each woman basically meets her fated mate. Maddie, she showed up here with her sister, and her sister, she's used to taking care of her sister. Her sister's deaf, but her sister seems to get used to everything on this ice planet way sooner. She finds her mate sooner, and she likes being there, and she gets along with all the other women and the aliens there, and she's adjusting and adapting much more easily than Maddie is. So Maddie feels like an outcast. Also, there was a hero, like our hero is from the previous book. He had abducted our heroine from the previous book, her sister. So he is now an outcast. He's been like shunned, like he has to go and hunt, and he's not allowed in the caves or anything like that really until the brutal season comes. So he's an outcast too, and they kind of bond together on their outcastness. And it's their romance. And I give this 4 stars. I also, with this heroine, did not like her very much. I think that she was much more likable in the second half of the book though. She was very difficult to manage reading about in the first half. I just did not like her personality. But I ended up being okay with it and getting along much better in the second half. I also loved our hero. Like I really liked our hero. So anyway, I give it 4 stars. I like the series so much. I will definitely be continuing on. It's not my favorite in the series, but it's actually up there. I really did enjoy this one. So currently I'm reading 2 other books, but I'll talk about those in my end of the month wrap up. So I hope you guys like this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you want to, and let me know what you guys have been reading and enjoying so far this month. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd love to have you do so. Don't forget to click the like button, and until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.